storm phase. Category 2 hurricane. Catastrophic. Category 4 hurricane.
Category 5 hurricane.
The buildup to a landfalling tropical cyclone is palpable. News feeds across social media begin to swell with anticipation. Local and sometimes national media switch to extended coverage. But it's what's lurking beneath the headlines that can be the biggest killer.
You know, one of the things we hear very common is that when folks hear about a tropical cyclone approaching their area, they're really focused on that category on the Saffir-Simpson scale, a category 1, a category 3, a category 5. But those categories are directly related to wind and really have nothing to do with the water threat that the storm is going to bring. We see devastating impacts from storms that are really just tropical storms when they make landfall. But if they sit over an area for days and dump a lot of water, the flooding can be catastrophic.
In just the last few years, there have been major flooding disasters from hurricanes and tropical storms. Hurricane Harvey was a catastrophe for many parts of Texas in August of 2017. Harvey made landfall near Port Aransas on August 25th as a Category 4 and brought devastating impacts. As Harvey moved inland, its forward motion crawled to a snail's pace at just 5 miles an hour after landfall and then meandered just north of Victoria, Texas for 24 hours.
There's really just no comparison to Harvey in terms of the rainfall, both in the amount of rain that fell and the broad area that saw that really heavy rain. And then, of course, the hydrologic impacts, too. The U.S. Geological Survey reported that over 40 stream gauges set records during that event. So a really large area, big population impacted by that as well.
Harvey caused about $125 billion in damage, ranking it as the second most costly hurricane to hit the U.S. mainland since 1900. Hurricanes Irma and Maria followed within a month of Harvey, affecting Florida, Puerto Rico, and much of the Caribbean, respectively causing $50 billion and then $90 billion in damages. But it's not just the major Cat 3, 4, or 5 hurricanes that leave an indelible footprint along our landscape. Sometimes those smaller footprints can come in unassuming packages, like a small tropical storm. Tropical Storm Imelda was the 5th wettest tropical cyclone on record to slam into the continental United States, causing devastating and record-breaking floods in southeast Texas. Imelda's rains came just 2 years after Hurricane Harvey set the record as the second wettest tropical cyclone ever to hit the United States, and Harvey affected some of the exact same areas as Imelda. Rain rates aren't directly related to the strength of tropical cyclones, but rather to the speed and size of the storm, as well as the geography of the area. Slower moving and larger storms produce more rain, and mountainous terrain can exponentially increase the rain and subsequent flooding from a tropical system. Hurricane Florence came calling to the Carolinas in September of 2018. The storm spent the next 2 days producing record-breaking rainfall across eastern North Carolina and a portion of northeastern South Carolina. Over 30 inches of rain fell in a few spots, exceeding the highest single storm rain rates ever seen in that part of North Carolina.
We do see that communities who haven't experienced a storm in a long time, Houston, the Carolinas, have really gotten slammed the past couple of years. But that doesn't mean that other communities can let their guards down. Any storm, any heavy rain event can bring flooding. And so that's a really important preparedness message. Some of these communities feel very prepared because they've just been through an event or have that recent memory. But even if it's in our longer term memory, we have to really take each storm as a potential threat.
Every storm's signature takes on a different twist based on what the climate is expected to do that hurricane season. You've probably heard of the term La Niña or El Niño. Those are teleconnections or climate patterns that are major players in how busy or not busy a hurricane season will get. The last several hurricane seasons have been directly impacted by La Niña, which is a decrease in vertical wind shear that can mean more tropical disturbances during a hurricane season. Initial forecasts call for another La Niña type season for 2021. Besides that, the Atlantic Basin is experiencing warmer than normal sea surface temperatures, and that can provide more fuel for tropical cyclone formation and intensification. Warmer sea surface temperatures are also associated with a more unstable atmosphere, which helps promote thunderstorm activity that is a key ingredient for hurricanes to form and eventually bring a wave of freshwater flooding once they make landfall.
It's not just how much rain the storm is going to bring, but what are the conditions on the ground at the time? Are rivers already high from a previous event or a really wet spring? Are soils totally saturated, so most of that rain is just going to run off, or is it going to be able to be absorbed? So thinking about those things, even into, like you say, the winter and spring, are very helpful for the forecasters in considering the threat that the heavy rainfall events might bring.
Predicting when and where the rain is going to fall is key to getting the word out about the potentially deadly flooding that could move into your area. And even the most spot-on forecasts just don't matter if we miss the mark on the message.
Forecasting is always nice to nail when you're the scientist or the forecaster. But like you mentioned, at the end of the day, if folks aren't able to understand what that forecast means for them, to take appropriate actions to protect themselves, their lives, their loved ones, the value of that forecast really isn't that high.
Don't be caught off guard this hurricane season. Make sure you get the facts from a trusted source. Know the risks and take action early to protect yourself, your family, and your future.
Flooding, we always say, is a very local impact. It's water in my yard, that's a flood. So we're really trying to make sure that we are evolving our services to meet those needs and to make sure that folks do get those messages.
In an era of stronger, wetter, and more dangerous hurricanes, now is the time to be ready to weather the storm before it strikes. For My Radar, I'm Chief Meteorologist Leslie Hudson.